All right. Okay, I think we got that, and that's cool. And we're gonna pop out the chat and put it into another window on the other monitor. Slide that down, turn off top chat because it's stupid. There we go. And I think that's everything. Morning, folks. Well, at least it's morning for me. Good time of day. Let's say that. How's that sound? Cool. Let's see here. Arvid, greetings from former Prussia. Oh, neat. That's pretty cool. Hello from Union County, Georgia. Hope your Thanksgiving was everything you wanted. I'm painting up some of the damned, working up a 2K force for OPR. Well, you are lucky because I still have not gotten my damned. I'm assuming they'll show up eventually. I do not think that I'll be doing another Kickstarter from those folks. I enjoy their models, but I don't think I'll be doing a Kickstarter from them anytime soon. So, Colin Mack, how you doing? Morning from Erskine, Scotland. Heading up to see my dad in a hospital. Well, I hope he is doing okay. You pronounced Celtic football team correctly the first time and it's said the same way as Boston. So it's supposed to be Celtic instead of Celtic? Wait, because it's the Boston Celtics, isn't it? I don't know. I'm not a sportsman. I hope your dad gets better. Good morning from Virginia Beach, longtime lurker, starting from Guantanamo Bay, Cuba in 2012 when I had too much free time. Easy Navy job, sure. And new wargaming coworkers that sucked me in. Nice. And Trench Crusade is my new jam, painting up my second army court. Nice. Thanks so much for being soothing, easy to listen to while one-way friend while during hobby time. Nice. I want to do Black Grail, but I'm going to end up doing the Prussians first, obviously. Let's see. Good morning from now chilly but lovely flat Florida. My 13-hour drive to Pennsylvania for Thanksgiving and 12-hour drive back reminded me how spoiled I am here when without winding is sub-zero treacherous terrain. Oh, sure, yeah. We got like 5 to 6 inches of snow last night. So after I get done here, then we go to my in-laws for lunch usually, and then we're going to come back home, and then I'm going to have to remove some snow. It's going to be a thing. And then I got to edit the podcast for tomorrow and then go to bed. Let's see here. Good morning, friends. How you doing, Feisty Crabman? Molly Metroid, how you doing? Snow showers here in Virginia. Oh, we got more than showers. Yeah, like I said, we got 5 to 6 inches. It's stuck to all the trees, and it's real pretty right now. But I would prefer if we didn't have snow at all. But I do live in Wisconsin, so what are you going to do? Afternoon from the French Alps. How you doing? Morning from Quebec. Howdy, howdy. From a slightly chilly central Oklahoma. There you go. Painting all the mesh on Tabletop World coaching in, trying not to lose my mind over such fine details. Fine details can be a pain. VJ Morph, how you doing? Ralph Hodge, made it just in time. How you doing? Sir Riffraff, how you doing? D20 Speak Easy, hello from Texas. Comp Native, good morning. Fungazi, good morning from chilly Washington, D.C. You lovely people. Well, it's good to see you. I see someone got their damned model. Still waiting here. Yeah, same here. Missed my window for priming as it's cold as heck here in North Carolina for a while. I have started priming with a rattle can only when I'm doing like 3D printed terrain and stuff like that. Otherwise, if I'm painting models, I just prime with my airbrush and it works great. Has for years. But when I'm priming 3D printed terrain, I still like to at least give it a good dusting of like regular enamel rattle can, And I've been doing it when it's kind of cold, which everyone's always like, oh, you can totally prime in the winter. You can prime in the cold. And it's true, you can. However, I've said this a bunch of times, when you want it to dry and like outgas and all that kind of stuff, you can't leave it out in the garage because it will look weird. It will get a weird bumpy texture to it, kind of like orange peel, and it sucks. So what I've been doing lately, and I've done this on 2 pieces so far, and I'm probably going to do it on a third, is you can take it and if you've already drilled a hole in your house, which we all obviously have, and then if you have like an enclosure for your 3D printer, your resin 3D printer that you've never used, we all know how that goes. You can just put it in there and then turn the fan on and then let it sit overnight, and it will outgas and the stink will get blown outside, which is what I've been doing with some Trench Crusade terrain actually. And I have a third piece that I need to do that to now too. So I don't know if I'll do it today. I don't really think I'm gonna have the time, but maybe another day this week. I'll give it a good spray and then bring it in the house and let it. That's the trick though, is you can spray in relatively any kind of temperature, but then you got to bring it in the house or someplace where it's going to be warm. If you have a warm garage, great, that's awesome. Let me see here. Motorbreath Jazz, hello. How much snow did you end up getting? About 5 to 6 inches. So not a ton. But it is kind of kind of a bit sticky, you know what I mean? Like, because it's a little warmish, so it's not super powdery, which makes my snowblower unhappy. So that'll be fun. Played my first game of Trench Crusade yesterday using Prussians. Was an absolute blast. Get it? Grenades. Nice. 4 p.m. in Switzerland. How you doing? Morning from North Pole. Wait, no. South Chicagoland area. There you go. Yeah, you guys probably got a lot more than we did. You guys had that big giant storm front just sit on you for like a good portion of the day. Hello from Italy. I started yesterday my Prussian box. They are really, really good. Yeah, they're really nice models. They really are. Paul Knox, the happy Thanksgiving. How you doing? Good morning from Brisbane, Australia. How you doing? Happy Thanksgiving, BF and CM. Hope you get all the deals you wanted this. Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good point. Right now, if you're interested, we are running our one sale of the year, me and Vince, the blackest of Fridays. Everything we make is 10% off except for the newest issue of Snarl, because it just came out like 2 weeks ago. So everything else, though, is 10% off, and it will be that way through Tuesday. So sometime Tuesday night, late, that'll get shut off. So if you're interested, you've been thinking about buying some Snarling Badger Studios games or whatever, they're all 10% off. So yeah, take a look at that if you're interested. Until, like I said, end of Tuesday. End of Tuesday my time, if you're, but yeah. Let's see here. Morning from a snowy and blustery Omaha, working on epic scale salamanders today, even on vehicles. Teeny tiny flames everywhere. That's a lot of flames on tiny little vehicles, yeah. Morning from Quebec City, happy as I can be. Got an Amazon deal on a new airbrush compressor, just under $100 Canadian. Nice, very cool. Good morning, Uncle Adam. My great-great-grandfather was a Prussian cavalry officer stowed away on a sailing ship from Hamburg to Baltimore, then walked to Texas. Wow, geez. Walked to Texas, that's a long walk. Wow. Good morning from snow-touched Saskatchewan, Lord of the Atoms. I'm not sure if that's my name, but it's close enough. Sure, why not? We had managed to avoid most of the snows until now, currently negative 20°C. That's no fun. Yeah, that's no fun. Like I said, it's barely below freezing here, so afternoon from sunny, if chilly, Scotland. Sure. Morning from Pennsylvania. How you doing? Morning from Jonesboro, Illinois. The rains have left, but it's cold and sunny. You guys got rain, huh? Yeah, no, we got snow. Snows and snows and snows. Good afternoon from Kent, England. How you doing? Good morning from negative 20 Celsius, Edmonton, Alberta. Boo, that sounds like no fun. Morning from California. Good morning from West Virginia. Our skirmish gaming group is talking about Trench Crusade once we finish up our Stargrave campaign. Very cool. Yeah. I think, the Trench Crusade rule set just speaks to me for some reason. I mean, I like the aesthetics as well, don't get me wrong, and the models are pretty great. I built a bunch of those Prussians when I was at VinciCon back in October, but I want to add to the army because there's other models you can have in that army that aren't in that box. Mainly the Sniper Priest, the Combat Engineer, and I think the Heavy Infantry, or Mechanized Heavy Infantry or whatever. So I recently bought those 3 models in STL, and then had my good friend Dave print them for me in resin, and so they're sitting in the basement right now. So my plan is this week is to put them together and then texture everybody's bases, including the regular other Prussians that I've already, like I said, built. And I may build a couple more of Prussians as well. I need to do some theory listing, list crafting theory, listy crafting, and figure out what I need to do, and then build that, and then, like I said, texture the bases, and then start priming and going from there. I also need to do some research on what colors I want to use. I don't know that I necessarily want to go 100% like, oh, these are like the colors that the Prussians used back in 1914 or any kind of thing like that necessarily. But I'm also not going to go like chartreuse either. You know what I mean? Like I want to be like in that realm, but be able to do my own thing a little bit too. So, let's see here. Good morning from Spokane. Catching a bit of the stream before I have to sneak off to work. Hope you're having a great day. I hope you are too, Taylor. Can see you got snow last night too. Oh yeah, we got a bunch. It's bright. It's very reflective, so it's brighter in here. I still got this little light on up above me just to kind of help in with some shadow fill, but it is definitely kind of bright. Going from Florida. Still waiting on more Black Rail sub-factions, but The Damned is WGA's or Wargames Atlantic's last Kickstarter. Well, that'll be good then. Yeah, I think they're to the point where they probably don't need to do it as much anymore, but it was a big project, and it was them and Mini Wargaming worked together on that. So, but I know that did they do a Kickstarter for the Mini Wargaming not Trench Pilgrim? What the heck were they called? Trench Missionaries? Did they do I don't know if they did a Kickstarter on that or not. Got my Alpha Strike yesterday, just now waiting for aces. Nice. Got over a foot of snow up here along the big lake. Black Grail, good choice. I just think they're great, and they're going to be a fun thing to paint. Dropping in from a Dragon Meat weekend, inspecting the hall and the conversations afternoon. Oh, absolutely, Nick. I'd never heard of Dragon Meat until this year. Is it like a thing that's been going on for a long time, or is this a relatively new convention? It's in the UK, right? Question mark? I think it's in the UK. Good evening from the Philippines. How you doing? Chester. William Edley. How you doing? Morning. Morning from Indianapolis. Going to be painting some of my 5 parsecs from home crew. Nice. Finally painting my Gilliman after putting him off for too long due to all the gold trim. There's a lot of gold trim. If you're concerned about gold trim, I would tell you to go look at the Army Painter. They have metallic speed paints, and their color, which is called Glittering Loot, is my favorite gold in the entire world. And it is very, very fluid, and it's a one coat done kind of thing, and it's really good for trim. So yeah, the metallic speed paint Glittering Loot from the Army Painter. Let's see here. I have a feeling the Battletech Aces is going to be a hot item. Might be hard to find retail. I got the last one from my local store when I checked it out. But yeah. Question, Uncle Adam. When you play Battletech/mech games, do you use troops and vehicles in addition to the mechs? Playing a click game, Battletech Dark Age was fun that way. I haven't started to yet. So because of Battletech Aces, they do add some of that functionality in, and so there's a potential that I probably will start to do a little bit of that. There's a part of me that just loves little tiny like micro armor tanks, so you probably will. I don't know about infantry so much, but we'll see. But definitely some tanks. I could see those going up against some mechs. That'd be sort of fun. Hello from Central New York. Have a great day. Enjoyed your solo play video from Friday. Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. About an hour from joining my first TC tournament. Red Brigade, 900 ducats, 8 glory, and it's my first game at TC. Well, there you go. That's pretty cool. Good luck with that. DJ Todd P. Harris, good morning from a balmy 40-degree Columbus, Ohio. Well, did you get any snow, though? Been priming during a dry, non-windy day between the storms, then came back in and popped this on, and you're talking about priming in bad weather. See, there you go. Yeah. Let's see here. Dragonfall, or Dragon Meat, different thing altogether. I'm patient with Kickstarters, but it's probably because I backed the ones for Dust Tactics and Monster Apocalypse. Anything else, anything less frustrating than those seems rare, but tame by comparison, sure. I couldn't justify the shipping on Prussians at 70% of the price of the models. I think as they keep producing them and they keep getting them out, you're going to be able to probably get them from places closer to you. You know what I mean? The issue right now, and it's just an issue with the world, is that shipping is incredibly crazy expensive, and there's tariffs and all this dumb crap. And so, yeah, from what I understand, like they're going to be getting it over to Australia. They're going to be getting it over to the UK, even America. I don't know where. I'm not sure where their distribution plans lie, but I am sure that the reason they're doing plastics is not because they want to just sell them direct. You know what I mean? Like they want to get them into distribution. So. Did you manage to get into it? Welcome to Derry this week. I didn't yet. No. I was gonna watch something yesterday, and then I ended up doing some other stuff. And then today I'm basically booked all day. Yeah, once I get back from lunch, it'll be snow removal and then editing podcast. So people should absolutely get Death Wizards, as it's awesome. Well, I appreciate that, Jez. And it's on sale. You're right. Good morning from Boston. Working on an army display board on this chilly and soon to be rainy day in Boston. Well, there you go. Fist and Stone, good to see you. As if everyone doesn't buy each Snarling Badger release as soon as it comes out. Well, I mean, some people do, and I appreciate that. And some people, wait, or that's fine too. Some people just discover us like eventually or whatever. That's fine too. Here from Fort McMurray, Alberta. Just started a local campaign. Nice. Tacoma, Washington. Woke up to foghorns. Nice. Here in Southern Illinois, we don't get a white Christmas. We get a brown and gray Christmas. Yeah, that'll happen. I get it. Good afternoon from Italy. I love the Prussians. Managed to snag one box from a friend that went to Essen, but I should have asked him for a second one. I could do Trench Crusade, but I bought Space Gits, and it's given me the excuse I've been looking for since the late 80s to do orky stuff without making a massive army. See, that's kind of nice. That's the benefit I could definitely see. Because, yeah, like, it'd be fun to do some orcs, but sometimes you're like, yeah, but I don't want a whole army of orcs. Now, you could do something like Grimdark Future Firefight. That would be fine. That's something you could do that would be relatively small number of orcs in comparison to an entire army. But this is good, too. Space Gets, from what I understand, is pretty cool. Some people were running it at TMX this year. I used the aged metal for the Prussian helmets from the new Vallejo True Metallic metal paints. Nice. Struggling to keep the old eyes open here. If I'm silent, it probably means the clown got me. Oh, that's not good. You don't want that. Morning from Alabama. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well as well. I had similar color goals for my Irish and British Trench Crusade guys. Went with the World War II historical set from Army Painter to catch the vibe while letting me do my own spin. Oh, that's a good point. I have... like right over there, I have the Army Painter military sets. I should dig through some of those for some colors too. That's a good point. New Prussians are awesome. Yeah, they are really nice. Checking in from Florida. Has a knockout changing oil in the cars so I can get ready for Mordheim tonight. Nice. Morning from North Bend, Washington. Warming up for some work on a Raven Guard combat patrol. Very cool. Dragon Meat is possibly one of the oldest RPG conventions in the UK, having grown out of Games Day in the 80s. It was a new venue this year. It's always been low-key but popular. See, I'd never heard of it before, so that's cool. That's very cool. Maybe it's just getting more, they've got a new marketing person, something like that, yeah. Thanks again for the video on Battletech Aces. It caused me to finally open my Alpha Strike box, and I've seen the error of my ways. Well, there you go. Might have got comment lost, but I'm about to go into a TC tournament. Wish me luck. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I'm usually kind of behind, so yeah. I kit bashed New Antioch a while back. I was going to kit bash Trench Ghost next. Yeah, Trench Ghosts are cool. But I stalled trying to figure out making them see them in my head. A lot of people might use Night Haunts, not my jam. Yeah, I would probably want to use Night Haunts if I was going to do it, but I'm also kind of hoping that they make them out of plastics now, a little bit. Morning from Texas. I'm working on building an above-board trench system. Nice. To redeem myself, I went and bought a couple of the vehicle boxes. Oh, the for Alpha Strike. Yeah. No snow, just rain. Well, infantry in Maine, like that storm. When I looked at it on my weather app and stuff, and like zoomed way out, it went all the way down. Like it was up here in like Wisconsin, but the tail end of it went all the way down to Dallas, Texas. Like it was like this huge middle of the country kind of thing, and that was interesting. Infantry in mainline Battletech is just to abuse the initiative system. Gentlemen do not do such things. Interesting. I've never been an infantry guy in games like that. Like back in the day when we were playing Flames of War, you had to take some infantry. It was like an infantry tax, but I would usually try to take the bare minimum amount of infantry and then put all the rest of my points and stuff into tanks. And I just preferred it that way. Happy time of day. Stopped in to say hi, but I got to go. Absolutely. Some feedback on Chrome Rangers, a giant robot game inspired by Lido and mecha anime with no melee combat is perplexing. One example, mech even has a sword. I hope you add melee to it in the expansion. Yeah, the sword that mech is in my dining room right now. But it's for show. It's a TV antenna, so that you can record his shows. We thought about melee and it just didn't kind of make sense to us at that time. And then I found that mech and I was like, this guy's awesome. And then I started printing him. I'm like, wait, he's got a sword. There's no swords in the game. But, what are you going to do? I don't know if we'll do something like that, make any kind of an expansion or not. I'm not sure. Maybe. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. The whole concept of mechs is sort of stupid anyway. As like, if you were like, oh, realistically, yes, we would definitely make tanks that could walk around. No, because they would just get knocked over all the time. It just doesn't make any sense. And then having them fight each other with fisticuffs or swords doesn't make even more sense. So, like I was fine with us doing a mech game. I get that, and it wasn't me necessarily that said no melee. It was also partially, it was the two of us kind of being like, yeah. And a lot of the stuff, a lot of the anime mech fights that, videos that Vince was watching on YouTube and stuff like that, it was all about like range stuff, And it was just always so, like back in the day when I used to watch Voltron, even as a little kid, I'd be over at my friend Mike's house because they had cable. We didn't have cable. And we'd be watching it and stuff like that after school. And you just get to a point where you're like, Voltron, just pull out the sword. It always works. All that other crap that you pull out never does jack. It's just stupid. Just pull out the sword. Just when you get a 10-year-old who's kind of like, no, seriously, just pull out the sword. Let's move this along. Let's move this cartoon along. That's not great when that happens, but yeah, that's just. Living in the Midwest prompted me to get an airbrush so I could prime on days like these. Yeah, no, for miniatures and stuff like that specifically, yeah, I always prime on my airbrush, whether it's perfect outside or whether it's, too hot, too humid, too cold, too windy, too rainy, too lightning-y, whatever, too tornado-y. But like I said, especially with PLA 3D printed terrain, I do like to give it a nice little layer of, lately what I've been doing is I've been using this black enamel matte spray and I give it a good layer of that, which will stick very, very well to the PLA. And then I go back and I use this stuff called filler primer, which is made by Rust-Oleum. And I use it, and it's a light gray color. And I basically do a zenithal with it, but not because I want the white to dark fade. It's because being filler primer, I want it to help sort of like hide the layer lines some. And with a Bamboo Lab A1, I don't get a lot of layer lines, even if I'm printing at 0.4 millimeter on the nozzle, which is the standard nozzle it comes with. You can also print with a 0.2 millimeter nozzle, but then it takes more than twice as long to print the thing usually. And these mechs are sort of tall. So, but yeah, when you put it all together and all that stuff and you spray it all black and you give it like, I don't know, 5 minutes to sort of set up and then just dust it from above with that filler primer stuff kind of helps to hide the layer lines on the top of stuff, but you're not spraying too much of it on there to try to cover everything so you don't obscure any detail either. And then once I let that outgas in the thingy down in the basement, unless it's lovely outside, then I let it do it out in the garage. Then afterwards, I literally take it back into my airbrush room and then I just airbrush prime the entire thing black, and then I do a zenithal in whatever color I'm going to do. So it's a little bit more time consuming, but I know that it won't come off because, you know, especially with terrain, you're a little rougher with your terrain than you are with your figures. So though I've never had Army Painter matte black airbrush primer come off, it works awesome. I've never had it come off, but still, I don't know. Especially on terrain, you're going to take a little bit more damage to it, and it's going to get bumped up again, thrown in a tub, you know, like a plastic, like Rubbermaid tub if you're taking it someplace or whatever, that kind of thing. So I have a tendency to do that. Square cube law, yes, that's exactly another reason why mechs don't work. But yes, let's see here. Good morning from Quebec. Longtime fan of your channel, Uncle. I appreciate that. Your content is always wholesome and your production style is super neat. Well, I appreciate that as well. Thank you. Morning from Statesville in North Carolina on this cold, wet morning, working on Yorani Army box today. Is that Infinity? I'm not familiar with Yorani. How much time have you spent reading up on SCP that one guy wants to know? Oh, I haven't looked at SCP since Friday. No, we were talking about SCP on Friday a little bit, which is it's like a online like I don't know what it is. It's like a lot of different people write it. It's kind of a copy pasta thing or whatever, but yeah. I've been painting various things for a year now. I've still not been able to play a game of anything. Well, solo gaming is something to think about for sure. I was guns blazing for Chrome Rangers when you first revealed it and still want to play it, but the lack of melee knocked it down to 2 lists. Next Snarling Badger project will be Majestic 13. Nice. Majestic 13 is a lot of fun. Getting ready for Adepticon spray team next weekend and staging 10 Mordheim tables for paintwork. Wow, nice. Very cool. For all my Trench Crusade homies in here, there's currently a humble bundle for a boatload of terrain that's perfect for a No Man's Land board for a killer deal. Nice. I used some terrain. The pieces that I've done recently have both been from Corvus Games Terrain. Is it Corvus Game Terrain or Corvus Games Terrain? I think it's Corvus Games Terrain, plural. And yeah, I did a cool one of those crosses that looks kind of like an antenna, communications antenna, and also a really neat pillbox. And I've got another pillbox that has not been primed yet, but it has been printed out, and I'm going to do it eventually. Hello from Chile, Santa Cruz. Hope you're doing well. I played first game of Alpha Strike yesterday and loved it. Also, for my old shaky hands, tried the AP Speed Paints markers and loved them. Nice. Well, that's good to hear too. Yeah, Speed Paint markers would probably work pretty well on Max, I bet. That's a good point. Hello from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Newish follower. Videos have been so valuable. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Absolutely. This month, Westphalia Miniatures are doing fantastic ghost miniatures for Trench Crusade. Very cool. Are they like trench ghosts, or are they just ghost adjacent? Really tempted to get some of the Modifius Paranoia miniatures to run the old White Dwarf crossover of Vulture Squad versus Orcs. Huh. Thank you for helping me to avoid snowblowing. I'm going to have to do it later. With the change of seasons, I expect to get some games in finally. Last time I rolled dice in anger was in February. Wow. I do like the solo tabletop vid as it works. I can't get a game too often, but if I can push, I can also fall to ease of video games. Video games can definitely be easy, yeah. I spent a portion of the afternoon yesterday. I just was like not in the mood to do much of anything, and then I knew we had this thing that we were doing later. We were doing Friendsgiving later and stuff, so I was like, I can't really sit down and start painting because we're gonna be leaving at like 5 and I gotta take a shower and all that kind of stuff. So I was just playing Cyberpunk 2077 for a while, which is awesome. It's just so I look at Cyberpunk 2077 as, sure, I'm playing a video game, but I'm also like doing research for my terrain because I have a board that I'm working on that's Cyberpunk, and I've got a bunch of buildings built and primed, and I've just been like, but buildings are generally gray. But even in Cyberpunk, some buildings are gray, but they still have some colorful buildings too. Not crazy like neon necessarily. I mean, there's plenty of like neon as far as like signs and stuff like that, but I was driving around just like looking at stuff and in the game, which is awesome. And I'm starting to get a better idea of what I want to do for some of the buildings that I'm going to have on my Cyberpunk board. My problem with using night haunts for trench ghosts is that they generally look like night haunts with guns. I don't see a problem there. Night haunts with guns sounds like a good time. I don't know. Warning from the other trick though is probably to try to give them helmets and gas masks. That helps a little bit more too. Warning from Southern Oregon, stripped and repainting mechs for Falcons for Battletech Aces. Nice. So far, pretty fun game. Very cool. Have any tanks ever used melee? So when we did Tanks for the Apocalypse, which was the game that's in Snarl 2023, Vince did a little bit of research, and he's like, actually, sometimes tanks would ram into each other. So we do have the ability for tanks to ram into each other in Tanks for the Apocalypse. The mech with the sword was just using the master mech sword. As long as the mech is at full health, it can shoot energy from the sword. Sure, could be that. Yeah. It could be something also that it uses for cutting down trees. I don't know. David from Brooklyn, New York, playtesting Ultramarines versus Blood Angels today at home. I play NIDS, so this should be interesting. Have a great day. Easy with the snow. Yeah, I appreciate it. Hello from snowy Iowa. How you doing? Like the idea of 10 to 13 foot mechs. There is some believability that they'd be used in urban combat. Yeah, potentially. I mean, I feel like if you're talking about urban combat, you'd still be predominantly focusing on maybe at best like power armor that might make you as high as 8 feet tall, maybe. I mean, that could make some sense because you could still potentially like crouch over to get into buildings if needs be, but more often than not, if you were in some sort of getup like that, you would probably be out in the street, and then there would be troops that would go in if they had to go and flush out people out of buildings or what, I don't know. And so you would probably stay outside, because I think if you were to go into a building, it would be very easy for insurgents or whatever, whatever terminology you want to use there, Op 4, let's just say. It'd be very easy to try to collapse that building on you. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons why tanks were never super keen about getting into real tight alleys, because, how many times have we seen it in movies where someone runs up and slaps like a limpet or like a sticky bomb onto a, tank or whatever, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. The heavy gear, those things were probably about 13 to 15 feet tall, I think, if I remember correctly. In a dueling game, if both mechs are made for melee, movement becomes largely irrelevant. That was the other thing that Vince specifically was concerned about. Like, yeah, if it becomes a melee game, then you just basically stand there and fight each other. Whereas in this game, because it's all about maneuvering and shooting, you're constantly having to kind of keep moving around. If it was a melee game, it would just be like, oh, let's get in the middle and just slap each other for a while, and we didn't want to do that. Netflix's Voltron, the legendary defender, did a good job of having some enemies need the lines fighting separate and some as Voltron. Well, I mean, I'd hope so. 2024 or whatever. I mean, it's 2025 now, but didn't that come out last year? Or did it come out like a lot longer ago and I've just not been able to keep track of things? Gonna coffee up and start my 5 parsecs crew. Absolutely. Armored Trooper Votoms has the most plausible mechs, the Scope Dog. I'm not familiar with... The word Votom is a word I've seen before, but I don't know what a Scope Dog is. I think the time max of the 0.2 nozzle is well worth it for smoothness, even on terrain. Yeah, I think it's because I've now printed a mech, like it was that small one that I did last year or whatever that was. I printed that thing with a 0.2, and then I've also printed now with bigger things with a 0.4, and if you get real close to it and you look, you're like, oh yes, I get that. But when you set it down on the table, especially with terrain, I don't notice a huge difference. Plus, because I play sci-fi games, if it looks like it's 3D printed, I can just say, well, yeah, it was 3D printed. Like when they moved to this area on this planet, they like set up a bunch of 3D printing machines and 3D printed all these buildings, and then people moved into them, and that's why it looks like that. I just watched a video recently, like a CNBC video on YouTube about 3D printing. There's a whole area in Texas, I think it was Texas, where there's like an entire like subdivision where all the homes are 3D printed, and they're really kind of cool looking. Like they have these sort of just very super. The roof is very like squared off, and like it's a metal roof that they slap on later, but the walls, like this giant 3D printer doohickey they basically put in it, and it uses like concrete slurry, and then it makes these and it prints them, and they're very cool. But like it never comes to a corner. Every time it like is like, well, it's like printing along, like if we're looking at it from the top, and it's like printing, and then it's a curve. Like every corner is a bit of a radius as opposed to like coming to a corner and a corner. And so they look cool that way. And there's people living in them and stuff. They're talking to this woman, and she's like, it's super quiet. Like I can almost never hear anything from outside, which is super nice, like stupid motorcycles and stuff. That'd be really lovely. And it's very warm, and it can't really particularly burn down very easily. And then like at the end, they were like, yeah, there's actually probably a lot of benefit for both California and also Florida. So it's either less likely to get burned down and less likely to get hurricaned. And I'm like, well, that's a pretty good idea too. So. Let's see here. Urani is Conquest. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Warning for the next 15 minutes till I go snowblowing. Yeah, I'm going to have to do that myself later. Warning from a Blarg, Pittsburgh. Wow, indeed. Did you see the shout out you got on Sam Pearson's channel for your love of Warcry? He designed it and now has his own game design. Oh, yeah. I did. Someone mentioned that to me. Yeah. Let's see here. Hail from gray, drizzly Blue Ridge Mountains. How you doing, Michael? Just finished a hike with my Adventure Time pup, and I am stopping by to say howdy. How you doing? Let's see here. I thought of you watching a Conflict 47 miniature review this morning. They were comparing the new stuff favorably to old GW sprues, both being better than the current GW sprues. Interesting. Just saw Wargames Atlantic released a Prussian set. No kidding. Like regular Prussians, like historical Prussians, or something a little bit more aimed towards Trench Crusade, or vice versa. Westphalian miniatures are for the Trench Coast sub-faction. They are perfect. I'll have to check them out. Glad to catch you on every other Sunday show. How you doing, Z? It still looks like you added bits to Night Haunts and less like they are ghosts of soldiers from the trenches to me. Well, if that's what you want to do, then you could just build normal dudes from the trenches and then just paint them with ghost juice, which is, if you haven't seen before, it's pastel seafoam speed paint from the Army Painter. You just prime them white, or you do a very heavy white to black zenithal where there's very little black left. And then once that dries, then you just take that pastel seafoam and you just slop it on top and then wait for that to dry, and then dry brush them a little bit white, and then boom, you got instant ghosts. So you could do that too if you wanted to. Let's see here. Boston Dynamics RoboDog for clearing houses. That probably makes more sense. Both the mechs I'm making for, that's the thing, is we always come up with like, like idea of like certain things like mechs and stuff like that. You go, well, yeah, because it'd be good to have like a robot. It could walk over things and stuff like that. And then you're like, as time goes by and technology advances, you'd be like, or we could just send a robot with no person inside. It's real small and skinny to go in and like clear out houses or whatever. Look for survivors in a earthquake and just stuff like that. And then we don't have to get squished ourselves or whatever, Yeah. Like the whole concept of like, oh, we should, like, it's basically what we're doing on Mars. Rather than flying to Mars and like going and walking around in one small step for a man kind of Mars thing, we just sent a bunch of robots. And we're like, hey, look at that. We can see all kinds of Mars stuff and we don't have to go there, which is probably for the best in some situations. Both of the mechs I'm making for Chrome Rangers have melee weapons just to look cool. I mean, you know, rule of cool is important. I'm sure you could have different soldiers from different time periods as ghosts, and some will look more relevant like Night Haunts, but it would probably be a mix with having ghostly legs. It could be. They're living in them and they have several generations, very successful projects. Sure, sure. The anime Obsolete has tiny mechs that are the equivalent of riding on the back of a basketball player while stuffed inside of an armored backpack. Whoa. Anyone else getting these pop-up ads over the chat? It's annoying and YouTube needs to stop. I mean, YouTube needs to calm down a lot on things, but yeah. Scope Dog is a type of armor in Votoms, also inspiration for heavy gear, and yes, they are around 15 feet high. Gotcha. I thought that Scope Dog was going to be like Sup Dog, you know what I mean? Or Up Dog. Stupid motorcycles, them be fighting words, only transport on two wheels. I just don't like the noise. Like, if you want to ride on a motorcycle, that's fine. That's, you know, I had a scooter when I was in college, so, you know, but the amount of noise, I can't stand it. It should be illegal. It just, like, if you drive past my house and you make all of the windows in this room rattle, then there's something wrong with your vehicle. That's just the way it works. Same if it's a car or a truck. I don't care what it is. Any kind of vehicle that I can hear from a distance, a long distance, is broken. Just got down snow blowing, and now I relax until I leave for my game later. Nice. I wish that I was done with snow blowing, but I'm not. I did a little bit of snow blowing yesterday. It was probably a waste of time because then it kept snowing. But greetings from sunny and 70 Lower Alabama. Well, fancy. May get some disc golf in today. We'll be thinking about all you snowbound peeps, so I appreciate that. Might have a virus on your phone if you're using Android because YouTube doesn't do pop-up ads. If it's on a phone, you know, that's a good point. I don't know. I'm not asking for exclusively melee mechs. I am asking for my 28mm Robotech Gladiator, aka Battletech Archer, to be able to use its giant punchy fist to punch someone if it gets too close. Well, you could come up with your own rules for that if you wanted to. I'm certain there's a special place in hell for the single-celled organism that decided jamming ads into the chat window was a good business idea. Good morning from New York, off to the FLGS to pick up the Trolls Battle Force. Mystery Science Theater 3000 gives me the urge to kit bash, if that makes any sense. It does. Like, they were, like, their entire set and everybody in it except for Joel basically was kit bashed. So, yeah. I really like the new Prussian box from TC. It just sucks that it's so expensive to deliver to the US. That will change. It will be in stores. It will be in distribution soon. I think that they just wanted to put it out there for people who wanted it like ASAP. But yeah, if you want it ASAP, it's going to take some coin because it's probably being shipped. My assumption is being shipped from Poland because I'm pretty sure, because it's Archon Studios that's doing the models. I'm 98% sure. And so, yeah, that's where they are. So, yeah. Robot mouse for search and rescue and collab. That makes a lot more sense. Could get into small little spots and then you know where stuff is. Exactly. Little Goblin, how you doing? Rule of cool is the only rule worth following. I mean, many situations. Adam, what was the first army-sized game that you played? 40K. I got into 40K back in 5th edition. I started with Tau because I'm like, well, these guys will be easy to paint, which they were, but they were also kind of boring. I didn't like the fact I wanted to do more kit bashing back then at that time, so, and conversions and stuff like that. So then I sold my Tau with the help of Sam, and then I went into Chaos Space Marines, and there was a lot more conversion and weird crap you could do with that stuff, which I did that. So yeah. Hello from a train in Czech Republic. How you doing? Excuse me. Suzuki is making a robot horse. Wow. A steel horse I ride. My favorite mechs miniatures are Dust SSU Steel Guard. I'm familiar with Dust. I don't think I remember the Steel Guard. All my motorcycles are silent. A silent motorcycle is an amazing thing. Good morning from New Jersey. Currently gluing magnet to the bases of 3 spearheads and my fingers. The fingers thing is difficult, yes. How for sale, indeed. Molly, I don't know if there's any kind of it's not like with I I don't know if there's a way to do it where you can type things in and then have like Nightbot do stuff in YouTube. I've never even really looked, to be perfectly honest. Well, it got bright, didn't it? Jeez. But I appreciate it. You folks should follow Witty here on YouTube as well. She's got a YouTube channel. Was hyped for Dark Water, but that price makes me just searching for Advanced Hero Quest on eBay. I don't even know what the price on Dark Water is. Like, I know that it kind of it's not out yet, but it's definitely, it was in my feed yesterday, just left and right. I didn't get one. I remember getting an email like a month ago or so, maybe, that was like, hey, if you want a copy of this, and you want to paint some of it by a certain date, and then maybe we'll put it in Warhammer community. Spoiler, they would not put my stuff in Warhammer community. Then we'd send it to you, and I didn't respond because I was like, yeah, you're not going to put my stuff in Warhammer community, and I don't have the time and whatever, and I'm not particularly interested. Like, I don't know. I've looked at some of the models, and they just don't do it for me. I don't know. Warhammer Quest stuff is not for me, but I'm sure it will sell out instantly. It's probably already sold out, even though it's not technically for sale yet. I don't know how that works. Oh, good. The cloud came back. Salty Titans. Good morning, Uncle Adam. Hope you had a good holiday. Just wanted to say Renegade Open in the Twin Cities was awesome. Doom and Apathy Adam ran an amazing Mordheim weekend. I would be surprised if Doom and Apathy Adam did not run an amazing Mordheim weekend. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that was cool. I should really try to look at going to that next year because it's not that far away. Like, Twin Cities is like 4.5 hours from where I am, so that's not terrible. Maybe me and Sam, that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, absolutely. My LGS did a big order of the plastic Prussians. I'm waiting for mine. Nice. Yep. Got into 40K in 5th edition myself. Yeah, it was not too bad, although I've been hearing more and more lately about how, I was watching some YouTube video or something recently where they were like, basically peak 40K was 4th edition, according to this particular person. They said that there's been nothing better since, and it's just gotten worse and worse. And peak was 4th edition, which I've never played 4th edition. I don't have a 4th edition book. That's a good question. I should look into that. But to be perfectly honest, at this point right now, I'd probably be more likely to just build an army that I wanted and play one-page rules with it. Oh, sun's coming back. And I've got the shades pulled too from where the sun would be coming. It's just, but you can see obviously there's there's a crack in the not a crack, but like right at the edge of the shade between that and the window and stuff like that. Let's see here. Got questions about magnet gluing. That would be a great video. There is a YouTube channel called Miniature Rundown, and they had a video about gluing magnets to the bases of your models for travel and transport and stuff like that. And that's how I did mine, because I did my first Trench Crusade force. I magnetized them, and I also magnetized a bunch of those Sanctifier kill team guys. And I never really magnetized bases before or anything like that. And so, yeah, I followed their instructions. So I would definitely, and Josh, who did the video over at Miniature Rundown, he's Soda Paints, who's very frequently in these chats and things like that. He's a good dude. But yeah, that's what I would tell you to do. It's Miniature Rundown. I would just type into YouTube Miniature Rundown magnets, and you'd probably find it. But yeah. Speaking of Whittle Goblin, my sci-fi themed Night Thirst project is overdue for completion. Nice. $225 for Dark Water. Wow. It's too expensive. That's how much it is. Yeah. From what I've heard, Dark Water is going for 300 Canadian. Wow. They do it for me. I want to get my family into Dark Water. I mean, it's probably a good intro, or intro to like that type of gaming for people who want to get like, yeah, your family and stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of board gamey. It's a bit of a, what do you call it? It sort of straddles the, between board gaming and miniatures. And so I get it. Yeah. But I'm just not a board gamer. And like I said, the models were like, at least to me, just feels expensive for a game that's all flat maps with no actual terrain. Also true. That is true. It doesn't come with any terrain, does it? I dig the quest boxes. I'll get this one too, just because I dig the aesthetic and models. I loved Blackstone Fortress, but just for the models. Like I remember buying it when it came out, because it came out like literally on Black Friday, if I remember correctly. And so I bought it at my local shop that was actually having a Black Friday sale for once, if I remember correctly. Not a huge percentage, but still I bought it. At least I think there was a sale. He's not usually into sales too much. But either way, I remember, basically getting this the Blackstone Fortress box on Black Friday, and I bought a bunch of the other boxes that came out later and stuff like that, just because of the models. But I never played the game because, again, it was on cardboard tiles, and I was like, I'll play. The only cardboard tile game really that I enjoy for the most part is Space Hulk, and beyond that, yeah. But that's just me. Was going for OPR. Nice. I love the Cursed City custom minis. This new Darkwater stuff, I only even like maybe 5 of the models, would only want to have him paint 3 of them. Interesting. I liked some of the Cursed City models were pretty cool. I got to test speed paint markers at PAX last week. They'll be great for trim. Oh, yeah. Picked up gold and silver, working great on Heldrake. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that's the thing, is that at some point down the road, if they're smart, they make a box of just metallics, because those will sell. You know what I mean? What do you use for the base size of objectives in Trench Crusade? I think we used maybe, 32 millimeter or 40 millimeter bases. I don't remember exactly. Been watching your videos for a while now, and I just thought I'd finally say hi. Absolutely. How you doing, Connor? Thinking about getting 5 parsecs from home as my first miniatures game. Good idea or not, do you think? I think it's not a bad idea at all, honestly, because then it's a solo and co-op type game. You can use whatever kind of models you like, whatever kind of terrain you like, all that kind of stuff. And the thing that's great about using games like that as a way to get started and to start learning is that you're never, especially if you're playing solo, you're never like, I don't like trying to teach somebody a game that I barely understand, because I feel like I'm wasting their time. And I have like a real problem with like that kind of thing personally. So for me, sitting and going, what am I doing again? How does this work? And going back to the book over and over again while I'm playing solo doesn't bother me at all, because I'm not putting somebody else out. So, that type of game is the game I would definitely take a look at, frankly. And if I remember correctly, like 5 parsecs has got a bunch of add-ons you can get to it too as you go, forward and stuff like that. So, Darkwater still not sold out on the GW site. Interesting. Maybe the price to value ratio is not to people's liking. Going to skip that out of protest, given that the set is probably one of the reasons that Dead Silence got hosed with pre-order quantities. What is Dead Silence? I'm not sure what that is. I'll probably just get the Darkwater minis off of eBay. I saw Ash's playthrough and wasn't impressed. Well, you were impressed with Ash's playthrough, but you weren't impressed with the game. I get it. For me, peak 40K was 1996 to 1997 during 2nd edition. Oh, wow. I like the minis in the box. I'm a sucker for AOS stuff, though. Love my 40K, but fantasy holds a special place for some reason. I can understand that, sure. I like Warhammer Quest stuff. Nice. I just magnetized a bunch of Blood Bowl minis with hot glue guns. So far, so good. Offset the magnets so it can hold mini in case, and I'll hold magnetized footballs to base. Oh, that's sort of smart. Yeah, I get that. For me, it was, and again, I followed this video from Miniature Rundown. It was, it's just a little glob of green stuff, and then you are basically like putting some glue on just a tiny dot of glue on the underside of the base, sticking your glob of green stuff in there, putting a little bit of glue on your miniature, or on your magnet, and then sticking it into the green stuff, sort of squishing it in, and then you push it down flat on the on the surface, on that table surface. But to not glue the model to the table, what I did was I laid down some baking parchment. Baking parchment has silicone in it, so stuff doesn't stick to it, like your cookies or whatever you're baking, but it also green stuff doesn't stick to it. Glue might stick to it a little bit, but not too bad. It's generally okay. So as long as you don't overdo it with the glue, you're probably gonna be fine. But again, watch the video. He makes it real clear. Excuse me. Let's see here. Ahoy, Uncle Adam and minions. Hope we are all in possession of the same number of fingers and toes as yesterday. That sounds like something more for the 4th of July. There's not usually any fireworks on Thanksgiving or on Black Friday. Or you mean like on Black Friday, like you got bit by people who are when you're trying to buy a $12 toaster, and then other people are trying. Yeah, I didn't do any Black Friday stuff. I haven't done that in years, thankfully. Did I even buy anything online for Black Friday? I did, actually. Now I come to think of it. I bought another one of these. This is a Lexar 256 gig. This is a CF Express Type B. It's basically a memory card, but it's just a fancier version than regular SD cards. CF Express Type B is whatever. Anyway, I have like one of these, and I have like a couple of different cameras that use them. And I saw one in an email from Adorama, I think, and it was like half off basically. And right now, like basically like anything that's RAM, storage, yada, all that stuff's going up in price because all the stupid AI. So yeah, I was like, well, I better buy that just to be sure. So I think that was the only Black Friday thing, and it was really not intentional. I missed the Black Zone Zote to my eternal regret. I think I have one in a box downstairs. Honestly, I've mostly painted the models and only managed to play the quest games a handful of times. Sure. Just picked up the zine to try out Chrome Rangers. Saw a bunch of 30mm, or not 30mm, but 30-minute missions, Bandai kits on Black Friday sales too. Nice. I mean, they're pretty inexpensive. I bought a couple of those before Black Friday. I bought a couple of them like a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, I don't know, $17, 18 maybe. I haven't built them yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Blackstone Fortress, great game. Yeah. Let's see here. Will you be adding a t-shirt with Chrome Rangers art? Maybe. We might. It's really good art. Blackstone was also great because it gave us that Chaos rework teaser. Chaos rework tree. I'm not familiar with that. Maybe next Space Hulk release will be under the Warhammer Quest brand. I mean, maybe. Could be. If they ever do it again, I don't know. I want them to, so they probably won't. The 3 Chaos Marines? Warning from very snowy Elkhart. Yeah, it snowed. We got about 6 inches here, 5 to 6. Have you seen those models of the Great Hunger for, I think I'll buy them when I have the chance in December 1. The Great Hunger. No, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. I have 5 2nd edition 40K codices, doubles of Chaos Marines and Eldar, plus a few kilos of old metal models from the 90s. Gotcha. Having played 80s era James Bond solo games and having a blast, I can recommend the solo experience. Nice. Dead Silence was the latest Kill Team box. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, they didn't send me that one either. I don't even remember if I know what that was. Yeah, I just haven't been paying attention to their stuff that much these days. Is anyone watching the secondhand market for miniatures? I am noticing whole armies on sale in my local area. Even my local hobby shop is not sold out of a lot of new Ultramarines. Yeah, I can see that. My being fed up with GW is really ramping up lately. Yeah, same here. I think I miss what it was more than I like what it's become. Interesting. For some reason, Hero Quest on sale excites me more than Darkwater. I don't like some of the wonky faces and poses of the heroes in Darkwater, and I don't want to deal with a billion loose bits and pieces. Yeah. My first Trench Crusade warband was just delivered. Now, New Antioch Papal State Intervention Force. Nice. Love to get Darkwater painted up and give it to my young nieces and nephews to play together, but not for that price. $200 is a fair rip-off price. $255 is just insulting. Yeah. Happy Sunday morning. Week-long vacation ends today, but was able to fully paint 2 companies of battle mechs. Nice. Are they selling boxed Trench Crusade miniatures now? Yes. So here. This is the first. It's just stripe hitting me in the face. This is the new Prussians. This is the Prussian Stoßtruppen warband. I nailed that. And these are hard plastics, and they are designed by or manufactured by Archon Studio. So they're real nice plastics. And there's basically 2 sprues. There's like a full-size box sprue, and then another one that's about 2/3, right? And then there's also bases as well. And they make a bunch of stuff here on the back. That helps probably. There you go. But yeah, they are available to buy online, but the shipping is real expensive right now if you're trying to get them shipped from Poland to, let's say, America. Probably less so if you're getting them shipped to, say, Europe. That being said, they will, from what I understand... Sorry. They will go into distribution, which means eventually you'll be able to get them in your local store, probably, if you're in America. So, I know a lot of people were like, well, I can't believe it's like, you know, super, like, and it is expensive. It's very expensive to ship from Poland to America right now. And so that's what it is. But if you're patient, they'll be at your local store probably sort of soon, or at least available for your local store to order if you go to them and say, hey, check with your distributors and see if they got this yet. And then when they do, you could get it. And there you go. I have built a set of them, and I'm going to be adding more to them. There we go. So this is Trench Crusade. This is their website, which is much nicer than it used to be. Their website used to be kind of, but now they've definitely upgraded and made it a lot nicer and everything, which is cool. And they also have, on the back of the box, they have a little QR code that you can scan, and then you'll get on your phone, let's say, a manual like this. You can also just go to the website and get it as well if you want to. But yeah, I don't know. When I made the video, there was some people that were really ticked that there's not an extra piece of paper in here. They're like, I can't believe you got to like download the you know, how to put the stuff together. And I'm like, the thing is it's not just, oh, this is how you put it together. It's almost like a codex, right? So here's the, this is, and you can see how long and skinny it is. And I think it's designed to work on your phone. Oh, good. The plow came by and plowed in the end of my driveway. At least they didn't do it after I'd already shoveled. That's the annoying thing, is when you've completely shoveled your driveway and then the plow comes by and then plows in the end of your driveway again. Now it's just going to be annoying later, as opposed to being in whatever. Anyway. So yeah, these are the documents here, basically. There's no arrow. Can I just use my arrow keys? Oh yeah, you can. Okay. So like there's lore. The first section is the warbands of the Free State of Prussia. And then there's the warband rules. And then there's sample warband lists. And then there's the assembly guide. And then there's like credits and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff here, which is really cool to take a look at, and lore and all that kind of jazz, which this is a 72-page document. I don't want them to put a 72-page document in the box. I would rather just read it this way. Thank you. But it gives you like information about like strengths and weaknesses of the army and things like that. And then it shows you that all the different types of models that you can have in the army. Now, the Hauptmann, the Feldkapten, the Stasstruppen, the Yeoman, those are the ones that come in the box. But Sniper Priest, Combat Engineers, Combat Medics, and Mechanized Heavy Infantry do not come in the box. Now, the trick is that this Prussian warband is a sub-faction of the Principality of New Antioch. So the Sniper Priest, the Combat Engineers, the Combat Medic, and the Mechanized Infantry... Oh, I forgot to get a Combat Medic printed. That was dumb of me. Well, whatever. I'll do that later. Oh, I was making it worse. But so you could kit bash whatever you want, or you could just use those models from the Principality of New Antioch, which is what I'm doing. So to have a Sniper Priest and a Mechanized Heavy Infantry and a Combat Engineer and eventually a Combat Medic, if I, pull my thumb out, then you can, again, like I said, you can kit bash whatever you want, but you can also just use the ones directly from New Antioch. And then there's, I don't know, designer's notes and how to make a warband and this and that and everything. So like all this information, this is not just, oh, it's instructions on how to put together the plastics. It's like the whole shoot and match, and it's free to download, You can have it on your phone. It's kind of formatted better for your phone, but it also works obviously fine on your computer or whatever. So there's that too. And it gives you all the different armory tables and, all the equipment, even some cool pictures and stuff like that. And it gets into the special weapons and equipment that just they can use. And then there's some cool artwork. And then now we're getting into the actual list, right? Like this is how you build your list. And so it says one Hauptmann. That means you have to have one Hauptmann, which is your leader, basically. Sniper Priest, you can have 0 to 1 Sniper Priest. You can have 0 to 1 Feldkaplan, right? Which is the guy with the big wings, which is super cool. Then you can have as many yeomen as you want, basically, because there's no limit in the number up there. And then Stasstruppen, you can have 2 to 8. So you have to have at least 2, but you could have up to 8. If it was 0 to 8, then you could have none or up to 8, right? Like the Combat Engineers, 0 to 2, okay? And then Mechanized Heavy Infantry, 0 to 1. So I'm going to have one of them, right? And then there's 0 to 1 Combat Medic, and then that's it. And then when they get into sample lists, which is really cool, actually. Like a lot of companies don't do this, and more of them ought to, especially if you're starting to try to figure out, and you're like, gosh, I want to learn how to do this, but I have all this information, but I don't know how to put it into practice. Well, here it gives you, I think, 2 different options, right? So they're like, okay, well, you can take the Hauptmann with the tank splitter sword and the frag grenades and the reinforced armor and a combat helmet and a gas mask and a rapid assault, and gives it that many points total, right? And so you go through, so it's 70 points up here, right, for the base model, but then with all the stuff added in, it comes to 147, right? So that's very cool. And that your total then list down here is 698 points, which is just under 700. When you are playing a campaign, you want to start at 700 points. If you're playing a one-off game, then they tell you to start at 900 points, or to make a list that is 900 points. And also you get to use some glory points, which are like a slightly different currency almost. Like when you play a campaign, and you start at 700 ducats is what they call them. But you build your 700 ducat army. Then as you go through and play, you do things that are cool and you build up glory, and then you can spend that glory on special equipment and things like that. If you're playing a one-off, then all that special equipment is not available to you. So then they give you, oh, by the way, here's 8 glory points you can start with, or is it 6? 6 or 8? I don't know. But the thing that's cool then is then they're also like, oh, by the way, here's another second, sample force that you can use. And it's all nicely done. And then here is we get into the miniatures assembly guide, and they will show you option A and option B. And then as you're building, the black stuff is like, well, this is what both of them use, right? So that you got to have some legs. So piece 1, piece 2, right? And then piece 2 onto the base and stuff. But then if you wanted to do that red version, which was the sword pointing down into the ground, then you would be using the red. And if you wanted to build the version that has the cool rifle and the sword on the hip, then you're doing it. So it's all color coded that way, and just allows you to go through and figure stuff out. They were super easy to build, good models, all that kind of stuff. But then you just go through, this is your actual construction guide or whatever and everything, and that's cool. And then eventually you get to, then there's the credits and copyright and all that jazz. And yeah, I've been super impressed with what they've done so far. And I like this concept of having this information out there for people. So it's not just here's how you put the models together. And it's not, I don't know. I'm a big fan of digital. So people who hate digital are going to hate this. And I don't know what to tell you. I hate constantly having to recycle a full color instruction booklet to tell me about how to put together some GW stuff or whatever, and then I'm like, couldn't we just make this electronic and save everybody a bunch of time and money and resources? Anyway, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. But my plan is to take the models I've got already and add to it definitely mechanized heavy infantry. And the one that we want, and I don't know which one I'm going to go with, because you can either go with what they call heavy, with reinforced armor, and that's 85 points or ducats or whatever, or you can go machine armor. Machine armor is real tough, but it costs more. And then as far as weapons, I think they just come with one weapon. No, there's 2 weapon loadouts. Now I come to think of it. But the one that I had printed is he's got a big honking machine gun, which is pretty cool. And then I've got a combat engineer, and I've got a sniper priest, because they're just cool looking. It's like a guy, he's kind of got like long robes, and he's an older guy, and he's like blind, like his eyes are not there, and he still is a sniper with no eyes, because he uses faith or what, I don't know. Anyway, sniper priests do not use their eyesight to aim at their enemies. The opposing player cannot spend blood markers to add negative dice to ranged attack by sniper priests. So yeah, you can't be like spending blood tokens or blood markers basically to make the sniper priest have a harder time hitting, because they don't look, whatever. But it's cool models and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to, like I said, putting together these 3D printed models, and then I might have to get the combat engineer too, though. Well, we'll see. And then texturing all their bases, and then starting to prime and paint once I figure out my colors, of course. All right, that was me yammering on for a long time, so I'm sure I'm way behind on the chat. More so than usual. Let's see here. For fans of fantasy board games, I could not recommend more. Mantic's Dungeon Saga Origins is basically Hero Quest. Dungeon Saga is a lot of fun. Surely there will be a point where GW realizes that these low-value box sets are the same price as a low-value end resin printer. Potentially, yes. But don't call me Shirley. Yeah, I don't know what the next set is for Trench Crusade, but the first set was the Prussians, and they were pretty well received, so we'll see. Like I said, I'm hoping it's Trench Ghosts, to be perfectly frank with you, but I'm also hoping that it is bad guys, right? Like, at the very least, if we're going to do, the church faction, then this next faction should probably be Hell faction, and, they alternate back and forth like that. Let me see. Prussians. Fare thee well. The tundra beckons. Indeed, indeed. Morning from a sunny Milwaukee with 10 inches of fresh snow. Just got in from cleaning the driveway. Yeah, I'm going to have to be doing that later on. Did your 30-minute mission kits come in yet? Yes, they did. I have not yet built them, though. I'm in time for the first time in months. Well, good snowy morning from St. Jerome, Quebec. Can't wait to try Chrome Rangers with my pals soon. I can finally use those Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights are perfect for Chrome Rangers if you want to go down that road. Be very careful to cut price memory cards and sticks. Unfortunately, way too easy to pirate, and they fail at the worst times. Sure, this is a Lexar Professional stuff from Adorama, so it should be okay, I'm hoping. But I know what you mean. Snow just missed us in Louisville. Nice. I hope gamers remember that these large billion-dollar corporations won't even notice your purchase, but small local businesses will, especially small miniature businesses. True, true. You made that video about how Warcry was the best game GW had out, and then they canned it later that year. I mean, technically, it's not canned. Technically, they did update it just before Nova. Strangely, like literally days before Nova, when you'd think that they could have mentioned it during Nova, but they didn't. They kind of didn't really mention anything during. It was weird this year at Nova. But yeah, so yeah, I still it's just so weird about like the Warcry stuff. Like I was just looking a couple nights ago actually. If you're on the Warcry website, it's like, oh yeah, no, that's, or if you're on the Warhammer website, Warcry still is listed as online only. So that still seems not great. And yes, they did make a free update to add, I think, Chaos Dwarves or something like that. And that's cool and all. But still, they have not produced an actual product that a person could buy for that game in more than a year. And I just don't think it's good. I don't think it's good news. I honestly don't. But we'll see. Afternoon from a very gray Ireland. How you doing? We were talking about Corvus. We were just talking about you before. I mentioned that I've been printing the terrain. I've got the cool cross like antenna thing, and I've printed and primed one pillbox, one of the fancier kind of hexagonal, not hexagonal, octagonal. I don't know, one of those as opposed to the more square one. And then I printed a second one, which I haven't primed yet. I buy a lot of indie miniatures. You cannot but admire someone working away on their own dream. Yeah, absolutely. And you just get more interesting stuff sometimes. Well, a lot of times you just get like I find that for me specifically, like the indie, like the 3D print stuff, I just came across some really cool models a couple days ago on my mini factory that I'm like, I'm going to need to have those. Anvil Industry, they've made some really cool models lately that I'm like, I got to get Dave to print me some of those. I had Dave just recently print me these cool like zombie astronauts, and that are great looking models. He said they were a real pain to print because they weren't supported, and it was the thing. But yeah, took a break from 40K after whatever edition Dark Vengeance was, 8th maybe. Yeah, and I played Dust for about a decade. Cool. After Dust Studio folded, I looked at 40K again. It has passed me by, rules and price-wise. Yeah, I can understand that. My warband was from an Etsy seller in Budapest. Nice. Standard Archon always does QR code, very few paper inserts. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why we need to do that. How's that large cross-terrain piece going? I haven't got a chance to paint it yet, but it is primed. I don't think I have it on my machine anywhere. I have a picture of it on my phone. I don't know if this is going to help. I really can't. But yeah, it is. This is after I primed it black, and then also, like I said, did that trick where I used the filler primer, but like dusted it from above like it was a zenithal, and that worked pretty well. And then, like I said, I brought it in the house and then sat it in my 3D printer enclosure and let it outgas in there with the fan running. And then I've also done one of the pill boxes, but I haven't. I didn't take a picture of it yet. Also, the 72 pages aren't part of a $60 codex or behind a paywall. I really like how Trench Crusade is growing their game. I agree. Yeah. I hope they push that distribution along. I've been wanting to get into this for a while. No access to a 3D printer. Yeah. Lords of War guys who own a store in Canada said that their regular distributor is going to have all the TC stuff soon. Nice. Sample lists, heart. It's great for beginners and for people who don't have time and or interest to tinker with list building. Yeah, when I first got into Steel Rift, I remember struggling a little bit with list building, and I said to Austin and the guys, I was like, it'd be super cool if you guys had some sample lists. And they were like, And then like next year, when they released their like super cheap starter, it came with sample lists, which I don't think it was me that said, hey, but I was probably part of a chorus that was like, hey, you know. But again, if you're going to do like something that's a sample version of the game that's like super cheap, putting in sample lists also just makes a ton of sense. If you go full digital rule books, what kind of tablet do you use? I'd like a dedicated one with enough storage. I just have an iPad, and it works just fine for that kind of stuff. Like um, the what do you call it? The PDFs don't usually take up a ton of space. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, even an inexpensive, you know, or lower end, I guess, you know, you don't need one with like a terabyte of hard drive built into it or anything like that for sure. You know, also, it is weird. I don't understand it exactly, but for some reason, the regular iPad is cheaper than the iPad Mini, and I'm like, but it's bigger. Why is it cheaper than the? I don't. Yeah, anyway. So yeah. Physical media is not dependent on when a website deletes their site or the need to waste electric to start a phone or a computer to look up digital information. Buy physical media or you don't own it. I mean, if you download it and then you have it on your machine, then you do own it, technically, kind of. You know, if you have it backed up, which is the smart thing to do. I always have where's my drive? Right here. It's plugged in. I have an external drive that I keep I have one that I keep all my STLs on for reasons. And then I have another one that I keep backups of all my PDFs and all that stuff that I like. So yeah. Hello from snowy Manitowoc. How you doing? Try to paint a 3D digital mini. I mean, once you print it, then yeah, you can. It's pretty easy with the right program. Oh, well, I suppose there's that. There was a game. There's been two video games that are basically miniatures games, and you get to paint the miniatures digitally. One's called Demeo. It's like the word demo with an extra E in it. It's like DEMEO, I think. And the other one, I can't remember the name of it all. But it was, I remember looking at it and going, well, that's kind of an interesting concept. What was the Warcry update about? Like I said, it was just basically, I think, adding Chaos Dwarf stuff, I think. I didn't even really look at it, actually. Archon Studios do Rampart. Rampart has a group of city defenders that gives a great cross-section of minis that can be used for Trench Crusade, or in my case, an add-on for Gaunt's Ghost. Oh, that's pretty cool, yeah. I've seen that box. I've just never... I was going to pick it up sometime, and then I didn't, and then I forgot, and then the last several times that I've seen their stuff at, like, conventions, they haven't had it. The last several times I've seen their stuff at conventions, it wasn't Archon Studios booth, it was actually Elric Hobbies, and they have some Archon Studios stuff, but they didn't have that. That's why I didn't see it. But I think when I was at Gen Con or Adepticon, they definitely had it, and then I flaked and didn't buy it for some reason. Love the Warcry stuff, especially the Chaos Warbands. Yeah, I know. Best zombie astronauts, classic Warzone, Dark Legion, Undead Legionnaires. White metal but cool, hole in forehead undead. Nice. Apple Math is why the larger iPad is cheaper, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe it's like because it's miniaturized, and that's why it's, I don't know. Because, yeah, I was going to buy, like, I was like, well, I should just buy the smaller one because it'll probably be cheaper. Then I looked and I'm like, nope, bigger one's cheaper. Weird. Demeo is great fun, and they are about to release a D&D version. I heard about that. Yeah, they're going to have like a D&D like licensed version, which I think is really cool. It seems to be smart in my opinion. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else. I've got an idea for a video. Well, I don't know if it's a full video. Maybe it is. I want to make a video about ways to, so like, okay, the general like Warhammer looking power sword the way that people generally paint power swords and have been for a long time is that kind of like light blue to white fade thing, right? And so you have the sword, and what a lot of people like to do is they'll make, because the sword kind of has two, not two sides, but like, well, it does have two sides, but then there's also like the front edge and the back edge, right? So along that front edge, when you're looking at the flat side of the sword, they'll have like, okay, we're going to do like light blue to white on this side, and on the other side, we're going to do white to light blue, right? So you get that kind of like, you know, again, like light blue to white, white to light blue, and you get that the two colors kind of going the opposite directions along the surface of the sword. You've seen power swords before, you know what I'm talking about, I assume. But let's see if I can find a cool. I mean, Sam made a video about how to paint power swords a billion years ago on the channel, and that's, you know, that's kind of the standard way to do it. Power sword, like this type of thing. Boop, right? So sometimes you just do it once, but sometimes you do a lot of them back and forth, and you make it look all, you know, glittery and fancy or whatever and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. I want to do a video about the way I like to do power swords these days, which is there's two main ways, but I think I might have a third way as well. One of them is just to paint the thing silver and then use some like blue speed paint on them, to then, like, you still have the metallic, but you've got it slightly tinged blue, and then you can kind of go back and dry brush some silver if you want to. That's one possibility. It's very simple, and you know, but it's also fast, so you're not having to sit there and try to like. Because when I've done power swords in the past, I took a class from Sam one year at Adepticon, and he was showing us how to do it with a brush. Because other times I had done power swords in the past, it had been with airbrush, and then you mask off one side, and then you do the blue, and then you fade, and then you have to mask off the other side and do the opposite, and it's a whole thing. And it's fine, it's nothing wrong with it. It's just like, it's a lot of work. So there's that. But then the other way that I like to do it is actually taken from the video game Darktide, the 40K video game Darktide. I was playing that with some friends at one point, and I picked up like a cool new power sword or whatever for my character, and it was just basically a silver sword, but as I got closer and closer to the tip, it just like turned to black. And the idea, and it wasn't like just like, oh, it just turns black because it's cool. It was like charred. Like if you had a sword that was like, that had power in it, and you hit somebody with it, and that person was made out of meat, you would probably get some burnt meat stuck to the end of your sword, and over time it would build up, and you would just get like this, you'd have this powerful sword that the black would be at the end and stuff or whatever. And maybe you clean it later when you come back in between battles, but during the battle it's going to go from like, oh, this is an electric silver sword that's very cool, to this is a pretty gross like burnt up sword at the end because of all of the hitting and the electricity or whatever. And I just like that look too. So, and it's also super easy because you basically just paint the sword silver and then you dry brush it black at the end. But yeah, I've been thinking about, you know, maybe making a video about some very quick and simple power sword thingies and stuff like that. So something I've been thinking about recently. Let's see here. Warcry got a big balance update, rules added for a bunch of Age of Sigmar and Underworlds kits, Helmsmiths of Heshut rules, and a matched play pack released in the past few months. Well, that's cool. I wonder if they'll ever make another product for it, though. That's the thing. That's what I'm wondering, is like, why aren't they doing that? Why are they like, I don't know. Burnt meat stuck to your sword. What a wonderful phrase. I mean, you know, if you're going to be using a power sword, and you're going to be talking about Grimdark, you're going to have some burnt meat stuck to your sword. That's just the way it works. And it may not be meat, you know. Are Tyranids made of meat? Or are Tyranids just made of bug? I don't know. Are bugs made of meat? I mean, you can eat bugs. These are all very important questions. Orcs aren't made of meat, are they? They're like mushrooms or something. I don't know. Anyway, besides the obvious example of Hell Comes to Frogtown, what IP that hasn't had a war game, what IP that hasn't had a war game do you wish had one? For me, it's Rifts, Champions, and the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles RPG. I don't know. I gotta be honest, I'm not super jazzed on licensed stuff in general, especially in wargaming. Like, The Halo Flashpoint game seems to be doing fine for the folks over at Mantic, and that's great. I know there are people that are like super into the video game and they're like, well, now I want to play the miniature game, and that's cool. And that's great. And it's working out pretty decently. I know from experience working with licensees who own the, the whatever, the license on a thing, that can be troublesome. Like I've worked in the past when I worked my web design job, the company I worked for, we did a bunch of web design work for a company called Renegade Game Studios, and they have a lot of licensed product. They work with Hasbro, so they've got Transformers and G.I. Joe and My Little Pony, and there's another one in there, I think. And then they also worked with the company that does Power Rangers, and they also now work with the company that does Vampire the Masquerade. So when I would be doing design stuff for their website and everything like that, I would send it to the people at Renegade, and then they would look at it and go, "Yeah, this great list. This is," or they would be like, "Well, can we tweak this or whatever?" But then after that, then they'd have to take it and send it off to whoever the stakeholder was in that situation, whether it was Hasbro or whether it was Paradox, and then we would just all sit and wait until we heard about that again, and then you'd get back some sort of weird cryptic thing about like, well, can you change this? Can you make this? And then it's just back and forth, and it's this game of telephone because I can't talk directly to Hasbro or Paradox. I have to send it to the people at Renegade, and the Renegade people have to then send it to those people, and so yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are games that have done well in licensing, but like Star Wars X-Wing is not out anymore, right? They don't make that anymore. Star Wars Armada is not. Legion is still seems to be there. Like they've made a new version again, of course. Shatterpoint, I guess, I don't know, Marvel, like there's people out there who do the licensing thing. Vince and I are only interested in it literally as a joke, but yeah, I don't know. I there's very little in the way of licensed games that I'm interested in. Eventually, me and my friend Kevin are probably going to try to play Star Wars Legion. We had both built up and painted to an 800 point list, and then the new version came out and now it's 1,000 points. And I'm like, so now we have to build and paint more models and try to figure out the rules now again, because I want to make a video sometime about why do game companies come out with new editions of things? And I know the answer. It's because of money. Like there's no other good answer generally. I don't know. I get real salty about like, oh yeah, we got to make a new edition of this game. And I'm like, do you though? Really? Why? Why do you have to make a new edition of this game? Why not just make a second game? Then you'd have two different games for people who don't like the game number one. Maybe they like game number two, that kind of thing. But they're like, no, we got to make a new second edition of the. I'm like, ugh. And so, because then again, like I said, we were just about to start playing. Like Kevin had just gotten his Rebels for Star Wars Legion painted. Had a guy paint them for him, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, hey, new second edition's coming," and then it was 1,000 points, and then that. So, yeah, I got to be honest. I'm definitely, because of this, I'm selling all of the rest of my Star Wars Legion stuff that's not Galactic Empire, because I bought a bunch of stuff because my original plan was to have both a Galactic Empire army and also a Rebel army. I'm getting rid of pretty much all the Rebel stuff. There's a couple pieces I might hold on to just because they'll be great for other games, and I've already got it, so why not? But everything else I'm planning on getting rid of, because I'm like, if we're just going to keep on this same treadmill and third edition's coming like in another 3 years or whatever for Legion, then I just don't care. Yeah, I find it hard to believe that you need to make new editions of games all the time, but the reason they have to do it is because they got it because they need more money. That's just the straight up, in my opinion. I don't know. You're right, for profit, exactly. I did tell the story yesterday though at our Friendsgiving get together about Hell Comes to Frogtown, and how it seems like Hell Comes to Frogtown is now probably owned by Disney, which then therefore makes Rowdy Roddy Piper a Disney princess. Let's see here. Love the Trench Crusade lore. Scanner Barkley has a great Trench Crusade channel. That's a funny name. I like that name. Mushroom Orc Coffee. Now that's good drinking. Ooh. I just figured the power swords would just burn the flesh and fluid residues off. I mean, I guess if you, like I said, I don't know. I mean, over time it would get dark like a cast iron skillet, maybe. I don't know. But you would probably polish it, or you'd have servitors polish it when you get back to your whatever. Feelings on the StarCraft wargame. Yeah, I don't know. I want to take a look at it, but I'm just like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, okay, so, and this is what happens with game companies all the time, is they bump into this situation where you've got this currently made product, right? Well, there's 3 factions in StarCraft? I haven't played StarCraft in a billion years. But there was like the humans, there was the Protoss and the Zerg, right? Were there anything more than that? Maybe they added some in StarCraft 2. I don't know. But you also have X amount of like units that were in the video game. Well, if you're going to continue to keep selling and you got to keep making more and line go up, well, then you're eventually, like you did with Star Wars X-Wing, going to run out of ships. And they'll be like, let's start making more X-Wings, but change the paint scheme. I don't know, and so, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I'm interested in finding out about the StarCraft game, excuse me. Just partially because it's Archon, but we'll see. I love the old Palladium games, but boy, are they confusing. Sure, yeah. Let's see here. Mushrooms are one of the few things I can't make myself like, but I like mushrooms in stuff. I don't usually eat just straight mushrooms. Well, if you go to the Ren Fair and then you get the garlic mushrooms, those I can just eat those straight with a little toothpick. Those are pretty good. Why game companies come up with new editions for the same reason why film studios make remakes, endless remakes. Yeah. If someone has a good idea for a game system, how far developed does it need to be before bringing it to a publisher like you or OPR or someone else? I'm struggling to find playtesters. I mean, I don't know that we would be interested. For a hot second, like a year or so ago, we kicked around the idea of, well, what if we published other people's work? And then we stopped because it sounds like a pain in the butt. Like if this was our only job, then it would sort of make sense. But as we both, have YouTube channels, and as he's got an actual day job, and I'm also working with, the folks from Army Painter and all that kind of stuff, we were like, we already make a game and a half a year as it is. I don't know we need to make any more. But I mean, there could be some benefit to that if some other publisher that was kind of small was also looking to publish other people's games, but it's hard to say. I mean, they're not small, but like Modifius does that. Like if there's a company out there who's looking to publish somebody else's work, the 2 companies I would think about would be Modifius and Osprey. Those are the 2. So like if you look at, what's the most recent game that I got from, it's behind me actually. Void Fighter. It's a science fiction dog-fighting war game. I had to read that kind of backwards. From Osprey, but it's made by Casey Garsky, who is our good friend who makes Space Weirdos. So he, I'm assuming, must have written all this up and basically designed it and done the whole shebang, and then talked to the folks at Osprey, because Osprey and Modifius both are keen to publish other people's stuff. Like I said, me and Vince, not so much, but Osprey and Modifius both are always looking for other people's stuff. Osprey does it in these little blue books, right? So these little blue books are, well, this one's a little bit thicker. Very frequently they are 64 pages. This one is 80. But they all have a piece of artwork here. It's always blue on the bottom. It's the same font, all that kind of stuff. The back looks pretty much the same on every one of these blue books that you get. The fonts and everything on the inside are pretty much always the same. The layout's always kind of the same. But they they make a buttload of artwork. They do make the stuff look really nice. But they make these kind of relatively inexpensive. I mean, not Car Wars, sorry. Gasland started out like this. Gasland started out as a little blue book like this, and then they sold so many of them they had to make the big fancy hardcover. So that's what they're doing. They're kind of throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. So if you're interested, I would get pretty far along and then maybe try to reach out to Osprey or Modiphius. I'd start with Osprey, honestly. But yeah, I've not, like I said, we thought about it for a minute and then we were like, hey, I actually talked to a friend of mine. I had lunch with a friend of mine who is a publisher, but not for games. He used to have a record label. So he'd be publishing other people's music, obviously. And I was just asking him about like, what pitfalls am I not seeing and that kind of stuff and everything like that. And he was just like, yeah, well, I'm getting out of it actually. And then I was like, okay. So I get that. But he's now opened 2 successful record stores, mostly used, but not all completely used. And so he's spending more time on that now. That's why he's gotten away from the publishing. Speaking of Hasbro, I wish they would have released expansions for their old game Battleship Galaxies. I vaguely remember that. Because we were taught by companies we need new versions. Many historicals never get beyond 1. Then you get scenario books, but it's for money, of course. Yeah. Painting some alien hives for OPR using mainly Army Painter fanatics. Ran into an issue with streaking grime removing all of the paint on a flamer beast. Doesn't seem to affect AK or Citadel. Huh. That's weird. I've never had enamels remove paint before. Did you brush it on or airbrush it on? Yeah, I've never had that issue. But then again, I don't really, well, whose streaking grime is it? Because I don't use AKs anything anymore. But if I am going to use streaking grime, it is Ammo by MiG. I've used theirs. I used to back in the day. I used AK a long time ago, and then I don't use their stuff anymore. But yeah, I've not seen that issue. I know some people like to varnish before they start doing enamel work and everything like that. I've not done that though. Like I know I used Ammo by MiG streaking grime on, how long ago was that? Let me see. Content, videos. This might be a while back. Because there was some models that I painted and I showed how to use enamels on my channel at one point. And like I said, it was Ammo by MiG, and it was a cool like dwarf guy with a big gun, and it was a sponsored video now that I come to think of it, because the dwarf guy from the big gun was a STL that was printed, and it came from Archvillain Games. But gosh, it might have been in 22. Maybe it had been 23. But yeah, I basically just, and in that situation, I used a brush. I didn't use an airbrush. I just brushed it on. And it worked amazing. But like I said, I've never had it rub off. But then again, like I said, I haven't used the AK stuff in like a really long time. No. I'm pretty sure I put a picture of the actual model in the thumbnail. Oh yeah, here we go. Enamel washes. You're doing enamel washes wrong. It's an Uncle Adam's Pro Tips from 3 years ago. November 18th of 2022. That one right there. Yep. And I was using, well, 2022, that wouldn't have been Fanatic because Fanatic wasn't out yet. That's a good point. I would have been using something else. I don't know. I've never heard of that. That's strange. Yeah, I've not come across that. Because I've used enamel since Fanatic has come out, but like I said, it's always been the Ammo by MiG stuff. That's weird. What is Hell Comes to Frogtown? Hell Comes to Frogtown was a movie made in like the late 80s or the early 90s. It's got Rowdy Piper in it, and his name is like Sam Hell or something like that. Like his last name is Hell, or maybe it's something close to that. I don't remember. But and it's post-apocalyptic, and there's a lot of weird frog mutants, and so he goes to Frogtown for reasons. It's a whole thing, but it's yeah. So there's basically like there's like him. He's one of the last men in the world that still can make babies or something. I don't know. So the government's very concerned about keeping him safe, and then they're like, "Oh, but there's this guy we need you to go save." You're sending him into harm's way. You're sending him into Frogtown, for God's sakes. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, but whatever. And then so he has a lady that goes with him who's to keep an eye, a track. She's like maybe a government agent of some sort. He has this weird like armored like underwear on to protect his baby making equipment. And if he doesn't do what she wants, then she's got an earring that she can squeeze that gives him a zap in his crotch or something like that. It's a crazy thing. And then there's like, for being a low budget movie, the frog makeup is actually surprisingly kind of decent. So I don't know. It's just a nuts movie. You can watch it, I think, on YouTube. I think you can watch the entire thing on YouTube. I finally watched Hell Comes to Frogtown last night. It was bad in a good way, and the lizard frog costumes were really good. Exactly. Yeah. They had like, there was just really good like special effects, visual effects on that, which was surprising for like not being a particularly good, movie. Seasoned sword, exactly. A friend had gotten the model for one of the Protoss characters. It came with an extra clear plastic version because he stealths. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, it's a neat concept. It's rad that you used to work at Renegade. Oh, I didn't work at Renegade. I worked for Renegade. The company that I used to work at here, it's not here in town. It's next town over. We did web design and software design and stuff like that. And Renegade was one of our clients. So we would do stuff for Renegade. Renegade would say yay or nay. And then if it was a licensed thing, then they also had to send it to somebody else and then have them say yay or nay. So yeah. But the Renegade folks were real nice. We had weekly meetings with them, or every other week, I think. I don't remember. Heard they are working on a TTRP of Dungeon Crawler Carl. Yeah, that sounds familiar, I think, too. I think it is them. In terms of finding playtesters, try to locate a playtest community here in the UK. Playtest helps out designers to get it. Oh, that's a good idea. Imagine if chess changed movements of the pieces and made octagonal board. Ooh. I got to say, I'm babysitting my granddaughter this morning, and she couldn't be more locked into this stream, teaching her early. She's 8 months old. Well, I mean, I would think that 8-month-olds wouldn't be interested in this at all. I mean, I'm not doing anything cool. I'm just sitting here, but maybe my voice is making her sleepy. I hope that it helps. Had an idea for a miniature game that was like StarCraft, where both sides start with basic units and you actively get to add and upgrade as you earn points for objectives. Nice. Hell Comes to Frogtown sounds like a play. Interesting. I know about Osprey. I have a few of the books. They are great. Yep. Which brush is the best replacement for the Army Painter Regimental? I don't know. I'm not familiar with the Regimental. I'm familiar with some of their brushes, and I've heard people talk about the Regimental brush, but I don't know which one that is. I do like the new Bionic brushes a lot. I really like I like the Monster brush, which is technically not Bionic. It's not the newer bristles, but it's a nice big thicker brush. And I like that brush a lot, and I've used it a bunch. But of the new Bionic brushes, my two favorites really are probably number 1 and number 5, which they have names as well, but I don't remember what the names are. But they're really, really nice. I like them a lot. Snarling Badger Records, soundtracks for Big Stompy Robots. I don't know. Has there been any open source wargame systems that have at all been successful? I don't know of any. As you're on the Army Painter team, could you get them to make an equivalent to Vallejo Warlord Purple? I don't know. That's a good question. I want them, before that, I honestly really want them to make colored airbrush primer. I definitely would like to have some, I would definitely like to have a dark brown, like oak brown would be great. I would love them to make a nice purple airbrush primer, and I'd like to see like a military green and also like a bone color airbrush primer. So that's what I'm trying to get them to do right now. I missed the good old days when in the early 80s I could buy small, cheap games like Steve Jackson's Ogre for about $2.99. Huge bang for the buck. Sure. Are there any reasonable fantasy card game publishers? Fantasy card games? Like, what do you mean, like a fantasy card game? Like Magic or something else? I'd hoped Hasbro would have made non-GW versions of Space Crusade and Battle Masters a la their new Hero Quest. Unfortunately, Restoration Games brought back Battle Masters as a Godzilla game. Really? Is it on a 5-foot, like, flimsy plastic board? Because I've got Battle Masters in the basement. Is varnish necessary after airbrushing? I've heard that airbrush paint can flake off over time. Like, all paint can kind of get rubbed off here and there. I generally varnish pretty much everything, but I use a super flat, like, matte varnish through my airbrush, and that's what I don't cake it on, but I put it on, you know. We traded some action figures for Battle Masters when I was like 8. That's when my love for minis started. Nice. Hell Comes to Frogtown was 1988. Gotcha. Rowdy Roddy was a legend. Sure. Totally sounds like a movie a pro wrestler would do. I mean, he did They Live, right? That movie was awesome. That's a spectacular movie. Are there any reasonable fantasy card game publishers? I don't know what you mean by that. Out of context, but I'm looking forward to a new solo wargame vid. I just got Rangers of Shadow Deep, but I'm interested to hear about other games out there. Sure. Good to hear. I've heard of Army Painter getting lifted by enamels. I've had it a couple of times, but that was when I was wiping off with a makeup sponge and only when just having painted. See, yeah, what I do with enamels is that I spray them on almost every time. Sometimes I will brush them on, but more often than not, I airbrush them on. And then I let them wait for probably 15 to 20 minutes. And then I wipe them off with an old piece of t-shirt. And I've not had that happen. But like I said, I've been using that ammo by MiG and not the AK stuff. So I don't know. It was AK Streak and Grime brushed on, did the same previously with Citadel, painted Tyranids and had no problems. Interesting. Yeah. It's the velvet tones of your voice. Oh, well, that's good. At least I cost the last 15 minutes. Sundered Psyche, hope you're doing well. Love the Dungeon Crawler Carl books. I've heard of them. I've not read any of them. I've only read the first 2 books, but I need more. Those would be a fun RPG. Kind of doubt you could make a miniatures game unless it was skirmish. Well, sure, yeah. I think it's more the mechanical action. Using the brushes I'm applying enamels with give no problems. Interesting. Think I'm coming in late to the stream? Well, good to see you, Blue 9. Sort of a standalone card game, sort of like Magic, but no expansions. I mean, Fantasy Flight, I think, has made, like, a lot of times what those types of card games are known as is living card games. Like, you have collectible card games like Magic and whatnot, where they constantly, and you buy a pack and you don't know what's in it, that kind of thing. Living card games it's still a card game, but when you buy the starter box, it's like in a bigger box, kind of like a board game, not like a huge board game, but and then any person who buys that box, you buy one and your friend buys one or whatever, you have the exact same cards. There's not any randomness to the cards. You get the exact same cards. And if there's expansions, again, they're not random. If we add this new expansion to living card game X, if I buy one and you buy one, they have exactly the same cards. And then it's about deck building with the cards that everybody has generally. And if anyone's going to make those these days, I feel like it's probably Fantasy Flight Games, but I don't know. Uncle Adam, check out the new Vallejo Mech Matte Varnish new formula. It's an amazing matte varnish. Where would I get that? I don't even know. Like, I don't know anybody. Well, there's a shop downtown, I think, that might sell Vallejo, but I don't know if they sell any of the mecha stuff. Coffee on the stove and Stormcast on the table to paint. Just watching all our lovely snow in Toronto melt in the rain. Yeah, we don't have any rain, but we definitely have snow. We got about 5 to 6 inches. Would Dominion fit the bill? It's a deck builder game. That's true. Like, Dominion's like a different type of deck builder. Like, if I remember correctly, like Dominion, like you start off and everybody gets some cards and then you're kind of going as you go. Whereas games that are like more deck builder, like living card games, Oh, there was that Arkham Asylum. Isn't that a deck builder? I know there was one for 40K that they did at Fantasy Flight. I can picture the box, but I can't think of the name of it. Back in the day, I know it was pretty popular, and they shut it down eventually for some reason. But like the old Netrunner game was the same type of deal, where it was again a living card game, but that was an actual deck builder. Like everybody had the same cards if you bought the same expansions and stuff like that, but you could build your decks differently and how you wanted to use them and stuff like that. Yeah, Netrunner was a big one. Now Netrunner is like it's sort of open sourced somehow or whatever. If you go onto like drivethroughcards.com, like so many of the cards on there are all like they're Netrunner, but they're not. They're called something else. Starts with an N. It's like a Japanese word and starts with an N. And that's a big thing that I've been seeing. I'm painting a forgotten robot like you've done in the past, Commander Towsuit. Any tips? I'm a big fan of just using a lot of washes to like really grunge things up, layers over layers over layers. You always got to let them dry in between, but that's a big thing. For me specifically these days, one of my favorite washes for that type of thing is Rust Tone from Army Painter. It's a newer, like it's part of the Fnatic relaunch. It was one of the, because they didn't reformulate they didn't reformulate the washes when they made the Fnatic line, but they did make new colors. And Rust Tone is one of the newer colors. And it works out really nice. If you mix a little bit of that with a little bit of the actual fresh rust effect paint to make almost like a, not quite a glaze, but yeah, that can help too, because then you get a little bit of texture, but you also get, it works out pretty well. Path of the Necromancer is a great living card game. You buy your Necromancer deck, and that's all you need to play. There are rules to mix and match decks. Also, company is based in Milwaukee. Oh, neat. Never even heard of that. That's pretty cool. This might be a stupid question, but do you think Pokemon would be a good tabletop game? You mean like tabletop card game? I know it's very popular, but I've never played it. Do you mean like Pokemon, like a skirmish game, like with miniatures and stuff like that? I don't know. It's a good question. I've not, like, the little that I know about Pokemon is that you've got like two people and then they throw Pokemons at each other. And you have, at least in the old video game back in the day when I used to play, like way back in college, I played it on the Game Boy. It was, you had like what, 4 Pokemons or whatever, and so did your opponent, and then you would battle back and forth. I don't know how interesting that would be as a miniatures game, but yeah, maybe. Be releasing my first mech model sculpt tomorrow on my manufactory. Sadly, didn't get a chance to resin print all the pieces, so sadly, only some were supported. Nice. Okay, that's pretty cool. Congrats on releasing a model. That's very cool. Res Arcana fantasy card game in a small box. Interesting. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've never been super into card games. Like I played Magic back in the day. I got into Magic towards the tail end of beta, and then when it went into unlimited, and then when the first couple of expansions started coming out, like Antiquities, Ice Age, The Dark, was that one? There was several of the earliest ones that came out, and I was buying those decks, not decks. Well, I was buying starters, but I was also buying, because back then they had starters and stuff. And that I would also buy the booster packs and things like that. I remember working at this camera store, and there were two cameras. Well, there were 2 locations. There was one that was downtown, and then there was one that was out by the highway in a strip mall. And when I would end up working at the one out by the highway in the strip mall, there was a hobby town in the same strip mall. So I would walk down to the hobby town sometimes on my break and buy like 1 or 2 packs of Magic cards, and then come back and then open them or whatever. And but then I got out of Magic completely sometime after like Ice Age or something like that. I don't know. And I traded in all my cards at a local game store. Well, at the time it was as local as it got, which is to say it was a couple towns over. We didn't have any game stores here in town at the time. And I traded it in for a bunch of other stuff and everything like that. But I'm sure I probably, if I'd only held on to it for 35 years, I'm sure I could have made a lot more money, but whatever, it's fine. Project Nisei. That sounds right. Yeah. took over the Netrunner license as a fan-made passion project. Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, if you go to like I said, drive-through cards, they've got a zillion of those cards up there on there, and it seems to be pretty popular. A guy that I know who was like really big in the Netrunner community and was like went to tournaments all the time, stuff like that. Spags, he has switched over now to Star Wars Unlimited. Is that a thing? That's a thing, right? It's the new whatever the new Star Wars collectible card game. He's switched over to that. So one of the 2 card games I have made is a 2-player game that is. I have the thing in the way of my monitor here. Sorry. I should just scooch this up. Can I do that? Ooh, there we go. One of the 2-player card games I have made is a 2-player game that is 120 card deck, and each player gets half the deck, so it's the 120 is actually 2 decks. Yeah. It's not a bad idea. Yeah, like I said, never been super into cards like since back then. Back then, I was like, we were all playing Magic and stuff like that, but I haven't really got into that since. I know a lot of people are huge fans of Commander. I know Vince and Ninjan both love the Commander stuff, and so does like when we're at VinceyCon, then it's usually Vince and then Ninjan and then Ben Cantor. Sam tried to get into it like 2 years ago and was like, no, I just don't. Yeah. And I've not been into the cards for quite a while. I've heard the new Star Wars Unlimited intro battle to Hoth is really good, even just as a standalone game to play. Well, that's pretty cool. Off topic question, but would you consider offering the Chrome Rangers cards on drive-through cards? Well, you can just print them out yourself for free. Like they're not. Because no, because then it would be like pretty expensive for people to buy. I'd have to redesign them all in color and all that kind of stuff and blah, 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 and all that jazz. So yeah, those are, because they're just free as part of the download, or you can just go to the website and download them separately as well if you, for some reason. And then you just print them and sleeve them if you want to. That's probably your best bet. Go and embrace that suck shoveling. Yeah. At the very least, I got to get the driveway cleared out so that we can get out of here. But yeah, that'll be the thing. So folks, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming by. I hope that you could, I hope that I was able to help if you were, sitting and hobbying or just trying to chill or whatever. I hope that was helpful. I hope that you learned something about, I don't know, something. Prussians, Trench Crusade, just whatever. So have yourselves a good rest of your day, and it's pretty much the end of the weekend here. I know over in like Australia land, it's already Monday, right? So, have a good week, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Get some hobby done if you can. And if you can't, well, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. And I'll have a new video up on Friday, and we'll see you again soon. That's pretty much about it. If you got a bunch of snow on you, be careful. Be careful shoveling and snow blowing, and we'll see you again soon. And thanks for watching.